Hey ladies, happy Sunday. How are you ladies doing? Hope you guys had an amazing week. I had an awesome week. Nothing really eventful, just a typical week, but I am thankful to be alive. I am thankful to be in the land of the living. And I am happy to be back again to do a video for you guys. So, just a little bit of small talk before I get going with the actual message. So, obviously, this coming week, Thursday, is Thanksgiving. And so, I will not be doing a video or anything next weekend. I think you guys know how I roll. When it's a holiday, I kind of just give you guys your space. I like my space. Just give you time to spend with your friends, your family, loved ones, so forth and so on. Like I said, it gives me a little bit of a break, and I can do the same. And so I will be back next week with the video. The following week, I'm going to do a blog because I try to stay the course. I'm trying to making sure that I do the blogs on a regular basis. With the blog interviews, I will probably resume doing those after the first of the year in 2023. Probably, I'm thinking like February or March is probably when I'll get the first blog interview out. Those do take some time. I have to wait to get the information back from the ladies, and then I have to format, so forth and so on. I still haven't heard back from the other two ladies. At this point, I just kind of was like, it's towards the end of the year, and I'm kind of winding down. I may reach out one final time to see if they're interested. If not, I will move on. There are other women that I'm definitely interested in interviewing, so hopefully I'll get the interviews back from them, and that makes my life a lot easier. If not, I move on. In any case, today's message is titled Set Apart for God's Glory and Honor. Once again, the title for today's video is Set Apart for God's Glory and Honor. Now, if you're on my Facebook group page, you kind of have an idea of what prompted this video. But if you're not, I want to just kind of give you an overview. So originally, I started out, I was going to be doing a totally different message. And you guys know every now and then this will happen, where I have one message that I'm going to do, and then something will happen throughout the week that will sort of spark an interest in me doing something totally different. So, excuse me, this week, I ran across this story. Literally, it has been on my timeline. Like my timeline has been bombarded with the story of the young lady Shanquella Robinson, and very tragic story. And I'm just going to give a very brief overview for people who may not know what this story is about or may have never heard of it. And then I'll get into the message. But before I go into the details of the story, I do want to say that I send out my heartfelt condolences to her family, to her loved ones. Just a very unfortunate and very senseless tragedy. But just to give you guys an overview for people who do not know about the story, it's been all over the news. So I can't imagine that you haven't heard of it, but if you haven't, this is just kind of gives you an overview. So this young lady, she was a successful businesswoman. I think if I recall, she's 25 years old, African-American woman. She went on vacation with some so-called friends to Cabo, Mexico. And unfortunately, she did not make it back. She was, I guess you could say, brutally killed. Yeah, really sad story. She thought these people were her friends. She got down there, from what I saw the video, got into a fight with a young lady. And it appears, based on the autopsy, that that fight where the girl basically beat her down is what caused her death. Now, her so-called friends came back to the States, and what they did is concocted this crazy story that she had alcohol poisoning and so forth and so on. But obviously what's in darkness always comes to the light. And little by little, we're getting bits and pieces of what really actually happened. And from what I understand, none of it was related to alcohol poisoning. Like I said, very sad and tragic story. But it prompted this week's message. And the reason that I wanted to talk about set apart for God's glory and honor is because oftentimes when you are set apart to do God's work in the earth, you are not going to be liked. You are not going to be accepted by the general masses. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't have friends. It doesn't mean that you won't have your own circle, but generally, you're probably more than likely not going to fit in with the popular or the in crowd or whatever. And I wanted this week's video to be a message of encouragement, a message of hope, and a message to get you to understand that that's really not that important. I know our culture and our society says otherwise. And when I think about this young lady, she was 25 years old. I think about myself when I was 25 or in my 20s. The thing is, I personally have never been a people pleaser. That's just me. But I can see, because of just thinking back to how I thought at that age, I definitely, my viewpoints and the way I thought about things was different, because I was a little bit more concerned with why, how come I don't fit in, blah, 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 blah. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten wiser. I totally get that I was never meant to fit in. Because if you fit in and you're like everybody else, then God cannot set you apart to be used for his glory and for his honor. Now, in terms of fitting in, it's not really that important. He says that his grace is sufficient. His grace is enough. His love is enough. You don't necessarily have to fit in or to be liked or to be accepted, but we live in a culture. And I think about when I grew up, I'm in my 40s. And so when I grew up in my day and time, we didn't have social media, not to say that being accepted and liked was not important, but you have this extra added on thing where you have social media and all these other outside influences to encourage you to want to be liked and want to be accepted. And I think about it and I'm like, when I was in my 20s, it was like, yeah, I was kind of concerned. Like, I wasn't a people pleaser, but it did kind of bother me that, I didn't fit in. But I started to learn as I got older, like I said, that that was purposely done. The Bible says that many are called, but few are chosen. So ultimately, all of us are supposed to be using our lives for God's glory and honor. We were created for his glory and for his honor. However, there are some people that are chosen to do his work in the earth. And oftentimes when that ends up being the case, if you happen to be somebody that's chosen to do his work, not a lot of times you won't fit in, you won't be accepted. The reason I wanted to really talk about people pleasing and acceptance and being liked is because I heard this story and it was very tragic and very senseless, but I thought to myself, there had to be red flags. I mean, I can't imagine that these people were like truly her friends and then just like snapped when they went to Cabo, Mexico, and just said, let's kill her. Now, obviously, I think there were like 5 or 6 people there. Now, obviously, those other people didn't necessarily, excuse me, beat her, but they're an accomplice, because the one guy was recording the video, which is insane. Excuse me, which was insane, and basically saying to her, fight back. Why aren't you fighting back? And I'm thinking to myself, you're a guy, first of all. Why are you not breaking this up? Second of all, why are you recording it? And just the whole thing just seemed messy, right? Some people are speculating that it was a setup, that they were all in on it together. As I mentioned before, she was a successful businesswoman. From what I could gather, she had a decent amount of money. From what I heard, that they literally flew back or something, or used her credit card or something to that effect. Just really messy and just like, wow. But the reason I wanted to bring up red flags is because sometimes when you want to be liked and you want to be accepted so much, it clouds your vision, it clouds your judgment. And so even though you see the red flags, you don't see the red flags, if that makes sense, right? It's just like somebody that's in, say, an abusive relationship, maybe not even physically abusive, say emotionally abusive. Let's say that person is in an emotionally abusive relationship. Sometimes you're being abused. You see the red flags, it's clear as day. But because you want to say you're in a relationship, or you booed up, or whatever you want to call it, you'll stay in it and continue to deal with the abuse, unfortunately. Now, I don't know this young lady. I don't know anything about her. It's just a story that has gone viral and everybody's talking about. But I can't imagine that there weren't red flags. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because when you are set apart to do God's work, it's like I said, you're not going to be accepted in many cases. You're not going to be liked in many cases. But you have to understand that his grace is sufficient. Understanding that bringing him glory and honor is the most important thing, because when your focus is on him, your focus is not necessarily on people, right? You're not concerned with people liking or commenting. Now, let me say this. Let me be clear, because I know a lot of people say, well, I do go onto my platforms and I do respond to comments and I do respond to likes. That has nothing to do with people pleasing. The reason I do it is because I'm appreciative. My thought process is that people get 24 hours in a day, and what they choose to do with those hours is their business. And if they choose to come onto my platform and like, share, comment, I try to show appreciation. And my thing is to try to give a personal touch and let you know that I appreciate you coming through. I appreciate you liking, I appreciate you commenting, I appreciate you subscribing. That's something that I really feel like God instilled in me early on with this brand. Let me just say something to be very transparent. So when I first started this whole thing, if you guys have been following me since the beginning, so you'll know, like, I started out, I announced it like on my platforms that I was going to be doing this women's empowerment brand. And then I said, well, let me do a Facebook group page, because I know that what I'm doing is not for everybody. Just because somebody's my friend doesn't mean they necessarily rock with me on my quest to represent God in the earth. You know what I'm saying? And I recognize that. So, and I think I said in one of the other videos, I'm not the type of person that's going to try to force what I'm doing on anybody. I will present it. I will extend an invitation. And then that's totally up to you if you want to come in and be a part of my community. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be a part of this brand, if you want to rock with me or whatever. So I created the Facebook group page. And interestingly enough, when I first invited people, it was kind of like an eye-opening experience, because a lot of people that I thought would join the group didn't join the group. And then a lot of people that I just kind of took a gamble and like, okay, I'll invite them. They did join. So that was very eye-opening to me. It was very interesting, needless to say. But one of the things that was kind of like really a pet peeve and that drove me nuts and frustrated me early on was that, I had a handful of people that they would like, they would comment, they would share, so forth and so on, but they would never join the group. And it drove me nuts. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just being transparent. And then God very quickly nipped that in the bud, and he put in my spirit, like, you don't get to dictate how people support you. You need to appreciate and value each person that comes by, whether they like, they share, they comment. And that set the tone for how I handle things with the brand. I am very cognizant of how I respond and how I interact, because at the end of the day, I am representing God. I am representing his kingdom, and it is about his glory, and it is about his honor. Now, what I am going to say is that I have never been a people pleaser. That's not how I get down, right? But I will say this: I do demand respect because I give respect, so I demand respect because I give it. So let's just say, for example, I have a neighbor. Let's say my neighbor is Jehovah's Witness and I'm a Christian. Obviously, we have two different religious beliefs. That doesn't mean I can't be neighborly. It doesn't mean I can't be loving, so forth and so on. You know what I'm saying? So I can still be loving, but there needs to be a mutual respect, because what I believe is not what you believe. And I'm not going to try to shove my beliefs down your throat. And I would ask that you not do the same with me. You know what I'm saying? One of the cool things about rocking with God and with doing things for his glory and his honor is that he will give us, or give you, wisdom and discernment. So when you get that uneasiness, that uneasy feeling, to me, I call it the Holy Spirit. It's like when you get that uneasy feeling in your spirit that something is not right about a person or about a situation, follow it, take heed, take those things into consideration, because you're not getting those feelings for absolutely no reason. You're getting those feelings because something, God is prompting you, not necessarily to just walk away and disown the person or the people, but God is prompting you to maybe put up boundaries, maybe put up, barriers, so that they don't get too close to your heart. The Bible says to guard your heart, for out of it flows the issues of life. So you don't want to necessarily disown folks. You still want to love them and love on them. However, you want to make sure that you set boundaries so that you don't find yourself in crazy situations, because everybody that looks like a friend, everybody that looks like they're on your team is not necessarily on your team. And you have to have that wisdom and that discernment to understand who's truly on your team and who's not. Like I said, it doesn't mean you disown them. It doesn't mean you don't love them, any of that. And so that's how you need to rock. And you have to understand that God will give you the wisdom and the discernment to know how to do just that. Now, I want to say this to end the video because my heat just came on. It makes a little bit of noise. But in any case, I'm going to end the video with this. One of the things that I've learned, and this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned with regards to being liked, accepted, people pleased, and so forth and so on, is that when you are doing God's work, right? When you are operating in his, in his system, and you're doing things for his glory and for his honor, you cannot gauge things by likes and comments, or whether people are talking about what you're doing or not. Now, let me be honest. I'm human. At the end of the day, let me tell you, everybody likes to be liked. Everybody, wants to be loved. But he says in his word, his grace is sufficient. Anything or anybody else that you have in your corner that's really, truly rocking with you, that is a blessing. That's an added on bonus. But understanding and knowing that God loves you, God accepts you, is all that you need, period. Now, let me say this. I will never, ever, ever forget. There was this young lady. She worked at one of my old jobs, and she was like really high up in the company. I didn't know her like personally know her, because I didn't work directly with her. However, I knew her because I was with the company long enough, and she would come and visit maybe, 2 or 3 times a year. And so I never will forget, she came one year. I hadn't seen her in a while. She hugged me, we caught up, whatever. And then she started telling me all this stuff that I was doing. Now, this is before I started the Women's Empowerment brand. I think she's on my LinkedIn page. Yeah, she's not on Facebook and all of that. This lady came into the office, and she came in for a normal visit to the office, but she started talking about, yeah, you're doing this, and you've written books and so forth and so on. I was just sitting there like, my mouth was like wide open. I was blown away, because I had no idea that this woman even was paying any attention to me. She never liked, she never commented, she never said a word. The reason I'm saying that is because when you are set apart to do God's work in the earth, when you are set aside to do what he has called you to do in the earth for his glory and his honor, you cannot gauge whether or not it's working or not working based on likes or comments or shares. Because at the end of the day, as they say, God works in mysterious ways. I was blown away because I didn't even know the lady was paying any attention to me. I was posting stuff. She never said not a single word. When you are focused on God and you focused on doing things for his glory and his honor, you need to worry about pleasing him and not people. The reason I wanted to do this message today is to encourage and to uplift you. Oftentimes when you are set apart to do his work in the earth, you are not going to be accepted. You are not going to be liked. But God gives you the wisdom. He gives you the discernment to know who is for you and who is against you. Take heed when you see the red flags. I'm not saying disown a person. I'm not saying not even to not love them. You should love them because God commands us to love everybody. But use wisdom and discernment. Put up barriers, put up boundaries so that you don't find yourself in unpredictable, crazy, and in this case for this young lady, unfortunately, life-threatening situations. Really sad story. Like I said, she was really young, had a promising future, was a successful businesswoman. And sadly, she's no longer here with us. Once again, I offer my condolences, my heartfelt condolences to her family and to her friends. Just a senseless tragedy. I hope and pray that this message has encouraged you. I hope that it has blessed you. If you do feel that you are set apart to do God's work in the earth, understand that sometimes you may not be liked. You may not be accepted. They rejected Jesus. They put him up on a cross. So you know if they did it to him, we are no different. But we have the confidence and the courage in knowing that his grace, God's grace, is sufficient. His love is enough. Anybody and anything else that he surrounds us with regards to love is an added on bonus. I love you guys. I love you. I love you. I love you with the love of Jesus Christ. Excuse my heat. It just came on. But I'm not mad. I'm not complaining. I am thanking God because somebody is out there in this cold weather today. And I am just thankful to be in a nice warm place and have a roof over my head. And obviously the basic provisions that he always has provided for me. I love you guys. I won't see you guys next week. Have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And like I said, I'll swing by my page. It's probably the Facebook group page and YouTube, just to officially wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving on Thanksgiving Day. Until we meet again, I love you, ladies. Katalambanawit. Peace out.